Howdy folks, Morgan here again from DePault's Hardware, your captain for all your grilling, outdoor power equipment, and home improvement journeys. Today let's dig into our inbox for a question from a customer who's looking to get a weed whacker repaired. Says, hello, I see that you're a Husqvarna dealer. Are you also a warranty center? And if so, can I bring in my string trimmer to your store for a recall that was issued by Husqvarna?
Yeah.
Great question. Yes, we are a Husqvarna, Ego, Weber, and Traeger warranty center. And since you brought it on in, let's go take care of your weed whacker right now. Alright, let's get started on this baby. First thing I want to do is take off the air filter cover. And once you get that off, you can take out the air filter so that we can get to the nuts shortly. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab my T25 Torx bit and start taking off the screws that hold in the cover. The first thing that you fully have to take off is the pull start assembly. Then you can move to the side and actually take off the decorative muffler cover. Go ahead and put this stuff aside. We'll get to that a little bit during the reassembly. Alright, next we're going to grab our 5/16 nut driver. I like to use by hand if possible. You can use it on a drill, you just got to be careful that you don't strip it when you put it back on. I'm going to put these nuts to one side so that we can loosen up the carburetor cover here. I'm not going to take the carburetor all the way off. All I really want to do is just loosen it so I can get to the wire assembly underneath it. And I'm going to take off the throttle linkage at this time. Alright, I'm going to switch to a T27 Torx bit right now. So what we're doing here is loosening the two outer screws and removing the center screw that's holding the shaft to the actual upper engine unit. Can't take it all the way off quite yet because we still have that one wire assembly clipped in there. Alright, at this point, let's disconnect that wire assembly so that we can separate the shaft from the engine unit altogether, make it a lot easier for us to work on it. Alright, let's get our T25 Torx bit back so that we can take off the front cover now. Here's the muscle behind your trimmer, the engine assembly. Now that we have it fully disassembled from all the other components, it's real easy to take apart. Let's start by disconnecting the spark plug wire. So this is the actual piece that we're going to replace for this Husqvarna warranty recall. Again, with the T25 Torx bits, there's 2 screws that hold on this ignition coil. And once we take out the 2 screws, there is a wire assembly that we have to disconnect before removing it. And remember, the flywheel has magnets on it, so if you find that the ignition coil is giving a hard time coming off, you can just rotate the flywheel a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the wire assembly so we can get ready for the replacement ignition coil. Here's the old ignition coil and the new one. They look identical, but the old one had an issue that could potentially cause a fire.
Get out of here.
And here are the magnets I was talking about. To make it easier for yourself when we're putting the new ignition coil on, I like to move the magnets away from where the ignition coil is getting installed. And this tool is very important. It's a 0.3 millimeter spacer. That's what we need to get the distance right between the flywheel and the new ignition coil. Let's go ahead and connect the wire again and route it the way that we want so that we can line up the 2 holes and get the 2 screws back in. You want to take note on the way that the wire was routed and make sure that you do it the same way as we reassemble. Now we can rotate those magnets back to where they line up with the actual new ignition coil. You'll feel it get tight and the spacer get tight as well. So now that we have the spacer in place, and make sure that the rubber coating on the wire is protecting it in the right position, we can go ahead and tighten down those screws. Alright, let's go ahead and reassemble the boot here. Just give it a firm press down. You'll hear a little click when it's in place. Now I find the best way to get the spacer out is just to rotate the flywheel counterclockwise. It should pop right out. And then from there, I like to actually rotate the flywheel by the new ignition coil to make sure that there's no grinding or nothing hits. It should be nice and smooth with the proper spacing. Now, reassembly, of course, is pretty much the reverse of what you did to get to this point, but there are a few things to really kind of keep an eye on. One thing is this gasket here. You don't want to pinch it, get it stuck behind the plate or bent. It's always a good idea to kind of cross pattern your screws. Want to make sure that the covers go down nice and evenly. Alright, let's get this shaft assembly back together here. You want to make sure that you get the internal square assembly to actually line up, and you can kind of twist it, move it back and forth until you get it into the right location. Start with the center screw, just so it lines up. It should pull the shaft right into place. Then you can hit the outside 2 screws to tighten it down. While the throttle linkage and the wires are loose, it's the best time to get these back in place. So we're going to click the wire assembly back in place, and then we can put the throttle linkage back in to the carburetor. And you'll see the little half moon shape that's going to fit onto the holder just right. Now you want to make sure that you get the wire assembly clipped back in so that it stays safe during use. And before we put everything back together, let's go ahead and test that throttle linkage, make sure that it moves when you pull that throttle trigger in. Getting these covers back on, it's not too complicated. One little trick though, as you're putting the main cover back on, just start to tighten up the screws a little bit just to hold it in place. And then we're actually going to give that pull start a little tug just so it actually kicks itself into place. You'll feel it drop right in. Then you can tighten it up. Alright, let's go ahead and put on the side muffler cover again. Gotta make sure you get the back hooks in first before you tighten down the screws. And now you can tighten down the front ones all the way. Alright, here's one to really pay attention to. When you're putting the component back on that's going to be controlling your choke, you want to make sure that it lines up correctly. The choke bar should slide right into the little groove, and that way when you actually pull the choke up, it activates it on the carburetor. I always like to test the choke to make sure it actually activates correctly and releases correctly. Alright, home stretch. Let's get the air filter back in and the air filter cover back on so we can go out and give it a test. As always, I'd like to thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you'll never miss an update. If you got a project or a topic you want us to cover, drop it in the comments. We're always listening. If you're local and want to swing by the store, our address is in the description below. If you want to visit us online, stop by the website at any time. This is your hardware captain signing out. And remember, it's never too early to get those kiddos involved in your projects so they can learn something new. See you next time.